Good morning, everybody out in streaming world. I am Manila Chan. That over there is Ted Rall. You are tuned into the Ted Manila Information Show, TMI Show for short, because obviously we bring you way too much information. We're live Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. So please be sure to like and follow this show wherever you're consuming this content. Smash that thumbs up button, because I think everybody has a thumbs up or a heart. So one of those. Hit that button. Help the show out.
Well, not people with no hands.
That is discriminatory.
Industrial accidents. Wait. They don't have a thumb.
Well, that's true. But I feel like this show is not catered towards thumbless people.
No. Thumbless people are highly welcome here.
They are, but we don't. We're
it's not the thumb manual information show. It's like
the 5-digit. You must have 5 digits on each hand.
Or you can be like Anne Boleyn and have 6. No problem.
I've never seen. Well, I mean, I know these people exist. I've just never seen one. But
I have.
Well, because
a lot of people are born with 6. A lot of babies are born with 6, and they lob them off. I mean, not a lot. It's not like 40% of all babies.
You hear about these,
but it happens.
Like in India.
There are babies who are born with tails, right?
I've heard about this, but literally only in places like India. And I always wonder, why India? Is it because they have the biggest population and the chances are
I would say that like the presence of raw toxic sewage everywhere might have something to do with it.
Or is it that the Ganges River is a toilet, a sanctuary, a drinking space, a
dumping ground for bodies?
That too.
Mm-hmm.
Could be a lot of things.
The pollution might have something to do with it. The fact that it's the most filthy place in the world might have something to do with it. It's squalid. I love India, but it is filthy, no question.
I've not been. I had a cousin who was some sort of executive at HP, the Hewlett Packard, and he picked up a brain worm in India and nearly died.
Human RFK Jr.
Yes, and And then
God, I'm getting jealous. Everyone, all the cool kids have brainworms.
You get brainworms, man.
How come I don't get a brainworm? It's like, Oprah, you get a brainworm. You get a brainworm. Everybody
go
gets
to
a
India.
brainworm.
Go to India, I guess. That's where you contract brainworms.
Yay.
So
I've been to India a bunch of times. No brainworms, though. I got ripped off. I should get the t-shirt. I went all the way to India, but I didn't get a stupid brainworm.
I didn't come home with a brain. That's got to be Ted's t-shirt. But so on today's show, we have a myriad of topics that we got to hop into. We're not going to stay too long on most of these because they're kind of updates, like the update about Boulder, Colorado. And this is a whole ICE problem now, Immigration and Customs Enforcement. We were going to talk about that. We're going to touch on Trump's BBB. Ooh.
Also crazy.
It doesn't sound as sexy as it actually is.
Nope.
And I think there might be a billionaire breakup there, Ted. We'll explain.
Think so. Yep.
And then the Kerch Bridge in Crimea. I saw like video from this morning after the alleged blow-ups again, a second attack on it. And
I think it's the third.
It looked like the second attack in the same number of days. And it looked like the side guardrail to keep cars on the road.
Yeah,
we'll
talk about
crumpled.
I was going to say it's less than meets the eye, but maybe it's exactly what meets the eye, and what met the eye wasn't that much. But we'll see.
Yeah, it was like a crumpled guardrail.
I'm like in New York, that would be a ship-shaped bridge. You could just keep driving right over it as is. No worries.
It's fine.
It's all good.
It's fine. You put up some tape. And then the Dutch government collapses. That's an interesting. True. I wonder what's going to happen there. And then the main talky talk is going to be about this Tom Girardi case, this famous attorney that Ted knows all the deets about. I had to learn about because I've never heard of these people until today. So I got a crash course. I got a crash course on who this guy was today, and his, the 33-year age gap between he and his now ex-wife, and they're, I guess, on the Real Housewives show. I've never heard of
estranged wife. They're not divorced yet.
Yeah. Oh, they're not divorced yet. Okay. Well, I just learned about these people. So we're going to talk about all of that. And Ted's going to spill it because Ted, was embroiled in some legal issues in SoCal where
I know all about Tom Girardi. I'll give you all the dish. It goes all the way up to the governor's mansion. This impacts Gavin Newsom. Let me just say, I don't think Gavin Newsom can be governor as soon as I open my mouth. I mean, he can be governor. He can't be president. You'll see.
Really?
Yeah. He's corrupt.
All right. Well,
he's corrupt, and I have the receipts.
I know.
I have the receipts, though.
I know he's corrupt and a little bit sleazy.
He's more than a little sleazy and stupid too. I can kind of prove that too.
To a woman, I don't know if he's stupid.
I can prove that he's stupid.
I've only had the one interaction.
He got grifted by another billionaire.
Interesting. All right. So if you guys want to hear the deets.
Yeah. Anyway, that's all coming.
Oh, Dr. Pat again.
Dr. Pat.
Why does everything go back to Dr. Pat?
All roads lead back to Mr. Wonderful on Shark Tank and to Dr. Pat in the LA.
Mr. Wonderful, region. Really? He's in this?
He always says that if you watch Shark Tank. All roads lead back to Mr. Wonderful.
Oh, does he?
Yeah,
I don't watch enough pop culture. Really
such a good show. Anyway.
I know. I really need to watch more pop culture stuff so I get hip.
Manila. This is a Manila. I'm sure you'd love it. I really, truly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So with that,
plus your kid would probably like it too. It's a good family show. Seriously.
Shark Tank?
Yeah, because it's it's about how you think. It's about entrepreneurial thinking. It's about putting facts and logic before emotions. It's about just as much as you'd like something to work out, that doesn't matter. It's like certain things.
But I thought it was a show about inventions and business.
It is. It's about it. Basically, people come in. They have a product that they'd like to. It's at different stages. Maybe it's a full company. Maybe it's just an idea, and then they try to get funding from the sharks.
From the rich people.
From the rich people on stage, but people like Mark Cuban. But basically, whether they get that money all comes down to the numbers and the law, and people be like, I like this, but there's too the margins are too low in this particular sector, so I'm out. And it's kind of like,
I would like that. I've
really,
only seen like
it's cold-hearted and it's no bullshit, which is so great.
I've kind of had it on in the background, so I knew Mark Cuban was on it. And I know Mr. Wonderful was on it, and some lady on QVC.
Yeah.
Blonde lady on QVC.
Lori.
No clue. But it's always like in the background while I'm like vacuuming, you know? So I don't really know.
I mean, it's actually kind of one of those shows that it's not, it doesn't work unless you pay attention, really.
Oh. Yeah. Well, I guess that's why I don't understand why it's been on for 100 years.
You won't have any problem, I have no doubt.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'll give it a watch. There's nothing on this summer, you know?
Oh, well, there's like 17 seasons of Shark Tank, so you'll have no problem.
Okay, then I'll give that a shot. And it sounds like a fun show, so it's not like depressing like everything else.
Yeah, and it's, it's G-rated, so you can, watch it with your kid and not have to worry about anything disgusting or anything.
Okay, I can do that. All right. So with that, let's get to the details, because I want to know about this Tom Girardi stuff. And we want to hear dirt. Ted knows some dirt.
There won't be as much dirt as at a blood orgy, but there's dirt. Actually, there's more dirt than at the blood orgy. The blood orgy might be, in some ways, a more wholesome experience than like what Tom Girardi and Gavin Newsom and Charlie
roommates.
Beck and Austin Beutner.
If you guys missed yesterday's show, you need to hop over to yesterday's show towards the end, where there's a lot of talk about blood. That was the main topic. And then it descended into my disgusting one-time roommate that I didn't know she was disgusting, and Ted's crazy psycho Santeria neighbor. Because it's New York City and LA. What do you guys expect?
Yeah, but there's lots of sick shit all over the place. All right, let's
hop to it.
Let's do it. We're gonna have really amped up stuff when it comes to ICE. In the old days, when someone committed a terrorist act, they arrested like the terrorist. Now you arrest the terrorist and you arrest their entire family. Oh wait, what country was it that used to take in the family after
North Korea?
Yeah, and Nazi Germany too. All right, so emulating North Korea and Nazi Germany, U.S. federal authorities have taken into custody, in other words, arrested the family of the flamethrower dude in Boulder, Colorado, who injured at least a dozen people. Now they want to arrest them. Well, they arrested them, and they want to deport the entire family. So Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, taking a break from dog killing temporarily, said on social that ICE detained Mohammed Sabri Solomons' wife and 5 kids. Man, she's a lovely person. Such a nice person. 2 days after he allegedly used Molotov cocktails to attack and scorch those marchers in Boulder. Noem said that HomeSec is looking into what extent his family knew about the attack and if they provided support. Well, you could go and just talk to them. Oh, and by the way, they are cooperating and they were answering questions. So, I don't know really why you have to arrest them. In fact, I would stop cooperating if I'd been arrested. So I don't think
you answer more questions apparently when you're under duress.
Well, I don't think that's true. I think if I would clam up and tell my kids to clam up if I was in that situation. Anyway, the White House bragged about this on their fascist website. The White House website on their X account. They could be deported as early as tonight. Oh, yay. You are such scum. I'm sorry.
Very expeditious.
They're scum. They're scum. I'm sorry.
Very expeditious.
Okay. Immigration and criminal defense attorneys struggle to recall similar examples of entire families being arrested for deportation right after one of their relatives was charged with a crime. Gee, I wonder why they're struggling. Because you know why? Because no one's ever been this fucking indecent before. Sorry. Donald Trump, this is a really disgusting move. And some immigration experts question the legality of deporting the family under expedited removal. That's fast-track deportation that doesn't allow you to have any hearings before an immigration judge. They're also not allowed to have an attorney. So much for the Constitution. Tricia McLaughlin, DHS Assistant Secretary for Public Affairs, says the State Department has revoked all of the family's visitor visas. I mean, it's not like this family doesn't have enough shit going on in their life already, right? I mean, the head of household is in prison, probably never getting out, and now they're going to be deported too. Anyway,
And the wife is out. This one sexy, right there.
She's sexy?
No. I said she's out. One sexy hubby right there.
I know. Well, she is free. She can go on Tinder now, and
right. He's not coming out, ladies. So just
just
move on.
She's available. So no.
Move
although
on,
you do have to hang out with the 5 stepkids. So there is that. Anyway, so this is. I'm sorry. I can't get over how disgusting this is. Anyway, the little Marco Rubio said all terrorists, their family members, and terrorist sympathizers here on a visa should know that under the Trump administration, we will find you, revoke your visa, and deport you. Okay, little Marco. All right. I hope you were like all horny, all 2 inches of you thinking about that. Anyway, they said that even though they're cooperating, they don't care. Stanford law professor and former immigration policy advisor to Biden and Obama, Lucas Gutentag, says visa holders are usually ineligible to be expedited in this fashion without any hearing because they arrive with valid legal documents. But guess who's going to represent them and care about them? No fucking buddy. So, they're just fucked. And I don't know. I mean, there's an aspect to this administration, the gleeful cruelty, that I would love to think is anti-American, but apparently way too many people on the right think it's great, and way too many people on the left don't give a shit. You go to like a bodega, right. Spanish, you'll see Spanish language TV like Telemundo, and there's Christie in Spanish telling like, I'm coming for all of you illegals, get out, I'm coming to deport you in Spanish. I mean, it's cruel. I mean, it's really fucking cruel. Yeah. And it's like the gleefulness. It's one thing if you want to say, listen, illegal status is by definition illegal, and we're giving you fair warning. And seriously, you got to start making some moves to leave. That's okay. That's a legal thing. You can do that. That's the law. You can enforce the law. There's nothing immoral about enforcing your own country's laws, but there's the way that you do it. Right? It's sort of like if the cop pulls you over for running a stop sign. He can't shoot you. Well, I guess he can, but he shouldn't. And it's like the same thing here. It's like you don't take a wife with 5 kids and this is for public consumption. They're not worried about her or her 5 kids. They're not dangerous. They're doing this because it's fun. They think it's hilarious. They're cracking up about it. I hate them. Fuck them. I hope they die. Sorry.
It's really just shitty and cruel and mean. That it's not only just this family, it's the millions of others who, yes, by definition, they're here illegally, fine, but you don't have to be cruel about it. You can just do like President Obama did. Just wrangle them up, deport millions, separate parents from children, deport millions of people, but just never say anything to the public. Don't tell Americans that you're cruel. It's the fact that these people don't care that they're cruel. Obama cared about looking kind.
Yeah, even though he was cruel. He had kids in cages was his thing. But he wasn't laughing about the whole thing.
Right. He was deporter in chief.
He and Michelle were probably having great sex while talking about it, but they were not talking about it in public. They weren't broad.
Don't brag.
This degrades like a nation that's supposedly founded on Christian values, right? It's like of charity, compassion for the downtrodden, and so on. This degrades us. It debases us. It makes us look like vicious shits. I think it's like
petty and mean.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, all right. Okay. Sorry. Had to go there. All right. So we have some news about this, by the way. Billionaire Elon Musk is really pissed off about the new tax and immigration bill, otherwise known as the Big Beautiful Bill.
Well, Ted, can we call this the Big Billionaire Breakup?
Big booty bill.
No, anyway, this is the Big Billionaire Breakup.
Big booty is a good thing. This bill is a bad thing.
This is it.
Anyway, Elon Musk calls this a disgusting abomination that would burden the country with crushingly unsustainable debt. Pursuant to that, the Congressional Budget Office has just formally said, they had estimated this, now they've formally concluded this just a minute ago, that the national debt would go up by $2.4 trillion over the next 10 years if this bill passes as is. Also, as you and I discussed with Robbie, the producer, right before the show, it turns out that there's some House Republicans are saying that they never read the bill. Marjorie Taylor Greene complained that it was over 1,000 pages long, that they kept changing it up till the very last minute before voting on it. And Democrats are making fun of Republicans for not having read the bill. Now they're complaining about various aspects to it. However, I should point out that this is something that congressmen of both parties do all the time, or I should say don't do. Like nobody read the USA Patriot Act and then they found out what was in it later.
Right.
So, I mean, but they should. I mean, there should be like a cooling off period. Let's say a week between the time that the text is finalized and a vote is held, so that at least for people who do want to read it, they can. Or I would think at bare minimum, a congressman should have a trusted staffer read over a bill and then give them, and flag any issues that they might have. But I do think, honestly, if you're a congressman or a senator, you should read every bill that you vote on. Otherwise, why are you voting on it? How can you vote on it? Anyway, I mean, I know it's complicated, but, LBJ read every piece of legislation as a senator and president.
I think legislation was also a lot shorter back then, though. They weren't thousands of pages.
That's true, but he knew them by heart. He could walk into the coat room and say, "Hey, paragraph 6, subparagraph 4, section 6G. Can we strike that last clause and add a parenthetical?" And he could, and people would be like, "What? How does he remember all that shit?" So anyway. Musk, of course, is no longer in Doge. He left on Friday. And previously, he'd been complaining about the bill, but now that he can do whatever and say whatever he wants, he's going crazy. This appears to be complicating the path to passage for this bill, which only passed the House by one vote last week. The Senate begins consideration this week. Republican leaders hope to have it on Trump's desk by the 4th of July, but I got to tell you, I don't think that's going to happen. Trump has encouraged Congress to pass it, but some Republicans in the Senate who care about deficits are on Team Musk. So that's a problem. Yeah. So shame on those who voted for it. Elon said, you did wrong. You know it. And Elon's right. He's totally right.
Elon's right on this one, for sure. Well, so we know for sure, we expected Thomas Massie in the House to vote no, which he did. And the Senate, we know that Rand Paul is going to say no. And I think probably he's probably going to be joined, I think, maybe by Ron Johnson. I don't know, maybe. But there are going to be a couple of true America First senators to join on the no vote. But this I think is going to be another MAGA divide. We talked earlier this week about how Vivek Ramaswamy was the first America First real MAGA populism versus MAGA grifters, and how that was the first divide. And I think this is going to be the second one, but this is even huger because Elon Musk is on the populist side. And he is, for the first time, speaking up and out and against the president, who he funded to the tune of $290 million. And for Elon Musk to speak out about this, and we saw little Speaker Johnson, Mike Johnson, coming out and saying, blasting Elon Musk. It's kind of like, dude, I wouldn't want to, if I was Speaker Johnson, I wouldn't want to get on Elon Musk's bad side, because I feel like midterms are coming and there are a lot of ways that Elon Musk with his wealth can get back at Speaker Johnson. A lot of ways. So I think that's where we're going to see the MAGA divide. And I think this is setting up a very interesting midterm election. I'll just say that.
We shall see. All right, moving on. The Security Service of Ukraine, also known as the SBU, claimed to have conducted that new attack against the Kerch Strait Bridge, which links Russian Crimea to Russia's Krasnodar Krai region, 2 days after the SBU's drone strikes on their strategic bombers up in Siberia. The SBU posted a video to Telegram detailing the operation, which it said lasted a few months. SBU agents mined the supports of this illegal facility, said the statement, and today without civilian casualties, which I'm not sure is true, actually. At 4:44 a.m., the first explosive device was activated. Russia showed some pretty credible footage of civilian casualties. The underwater supports of the piers were severely damaged. 1,100 kilograms of explosives of TNT equivalent contributed to this. I'm going to say that's plastique explosives because they were used underwater. The bridge is in a state of emergency, the SBU claims. Chief Vasyl Maliuk said previously, we hit it in 2022 and 2023. So today we continued this tradition underwater. So they either use a sub, I don't think so, or a torpedo. I also don't think so. I think probably they had divers do this. But
there was a diver. I saw a video of a guy as it was like the SBU was like taping a promo video. Ted, there was a diver whose face was blurred out that was riding this torpedo looking thing that was literally straddling it and being like shaking, like raising his fist, pumping his fist, like, yeah, I'm riding this torpedo. And I presume he like guided it down.
I don't think. Yeah, I think he.
I don't know.
I think he rode that. I think that's not the bomb. I think he rode that to get there and to get out.
But Ted, this is eerily similar to the Nord Stream 2.
True, although I don't think the Yukis did Nord Stream, but certainly not by themselves.
Not by themselves, of course.
And
not.
we already know we know the U.S. Navy did it because we have that reporting from Seymour Hersh, and it, nobody's ever denied it, right? And you ever notice that like people who say, "Oh, it's all lies," like well, really? So if it's all lies, how come nobody sued Seymour for defamation, right? It's not lies. It's like, oh, Jake Tapper, he lied all about Biden. Really? If that's true, where's the defamation suit or the threat?
No one has countered Guy Hersh's narrative. None.
No. No. So yeah, and you could just say, well, they're ignoring it, but I don't think that's what's going on here. Anyway, the official account for the bridge says the structure is temporarily closed. The defense ministry in Russia hasn't really had much to say about this. Meanwhile, the talks between Russia and Ukraine and Istanbul didn't go very well. Gee, I wonder why. The Russians are demanding limitations on the size of the Ukrainian armed forces, a permanent block on Ukraine joining NATO, international recognition of control over the areas of Ukraine it currently has, lifting of all sanctions, and Ukraine to abandon its demand for war reparations. Dmitry Peskov, Kremlin spokesperson, told journalists that there's no significant breakthrough whatsoever. He also said it's very unlikely that Trump, Zelensky, and Putin will get together and chill out over brewskis anytime soon. So, I guess there was not much expected, and that was what we got. Yeah.
Certainly, I didn't expect anything to come of it. I think it's performative is maybe not the right word. Maybe formality. I think the Russians are just taking part as a formality because they, Ted, we know some. They're more of a formal people. They'll do the due diligence, right? Of like, okay, we went here. Whereas I think performative would be applicable to the Yuki side. I think they're showing up performatively because, as we know, Zelensky is in fact a performer. Ted. He spent his whole career.
Is. You can watch his show. Or at least, I don't know if you still can. You used to be able to watch it on Netflix.
Oh, that's true.
This part always makes me.
He had a piano act, Ted.
He has his own personal political party, and it's named after his old TV show. It's the same as if the Servant of the People Party. It's as if Trump had run not as a Republican, but as the standard bearer of the Apprentice Party or the WWE Party. It's like
that would be so funny. Right. He's not a Republican. He's from the Apprentice Party. Well, Ted, I don't know if you've ever seen clips of Zelensky's most famous act. It's a piano act, and he's singing.
I have not. How's his voice?
Oh. Well, I couldn't tell if it was like voiceover or, but
like a Milli Vanilli situation.
Right. The important thing, I think he actually can sing. I think that was actually him. I think is what I read before. But he was playing the piano with his penis.
Oh my.
Yeah, that was the act.
Was it Chopin or was it chopsticks?
I really couldn't hear anything because I was going, wow. So that guy's the new president of Ukraine.
So you'd have to be pretty rigid in order to do that, I would imagine. Yeah.
Oh, so I just went, oh, they elected that guy. So look, here's the damage, Ted.
Oh, see that? That could really, in New York, that could close down one lane of traffic for several hours, maybe.
That could really back up lanes of traffic in New York. Any bridge in New York like that, back it up for a good 2 or 3 miles. Just saying.
It really could. Yeah, that could fuck up one afternoon's commute. It really could.
It really could. But the Ukis really, really are making a big media blitz about this. And so that was yesterday's attack, and this morning's underwater attack. I've yet to see what the damage looks like. I saw a big splash of water. Poof, we saw that. And they're all over the media.
Here's what I have to say about
that. Very performative.
So let me just remind the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. You can send me money via Zelle. Let me just remind you that you're so worried about this bridge. You think the Russians can't control Crimea without that bridge. That's why you keep attacking it. Let me remind you, the Russians built that bridge after they already invaded and occupied Crimea. So they took Crimea when the bridge didn't exist. What makes you think they can't hold Crimea with or without the bridge?
Very weird.
Just asking.
Well,
I mean, I'd love an answer to that question because I don't really think that makes any sense. They're like, well, the Russians rely on the bridge to supply themselves. Well, they didn't need it to take Crimea in the first place, did they?
Well, correction, though. They didn't take Crimea. The Crimeans voted overwhelmingly
that's true. I mean,
to rejoin, to secede and rejoin Mother Russia. And then the Russians welcomed them back with open arms.
Also, I mean, they're worth the little green men, right? The Russians did sort of show up and say,
but not one drop of blood. Not one drop of blood was spilled.
Well, it's because the locals wanted to be Russian. So
because they speak Russian, they're Russian ancestry, and for hundreds of years, Crimea was Russian. So, there's that.
It's like if right now Canada were to invade, I would welcome them as liberators. It's like that. All right.
Well, this is the damage. And I just want to say, like I said, the Russians are a formal people. They showed up to the talks in Istanbul because they're doing the steps that they need to do because it's a formality. Nothing has changed since 2022. The demands are the same. Nothing has changed.
Well, the Ukrainians haven't come to Jesus. And ultimately,
that's right.
That this is only going to be resolved if Trump convinces the Ukrainians to stop. That's really it.
Yeah, I don't think it's Trump anymore now. I'm going to put this squarely at the feet of Keir Starmer. I'm going to put this squarely on the Brits. Macron. And Macron too, but a lot of bluster coming out of Starmer. Starmer, before Trump came to power, he went to Kiev and signed basically like a no limits pact. It was a carte blanche check. He agreed to signing a 100-year pact with Zelensky he agreed to 100 years without going to parliament, first of all.
Not a 1,000-year Reich. That's different.
No, 100-year protection pact saying like, we're your homies for sure for 100 years. And then when he came back to parliament, he got into a scuffle with the parliamentarians, and the PMs were like, bro, what was in this deal? You didn't tell us you were going to sign this. You didn't even tell us you were going to pitch this deal. What's in this deal? And Starmer's like, oh, we'll work that out. Don't worry about it. We agreed to do 100-year protection deal. So I believe there's something cooking there. And I've said this on my own podcast when it happened, like, I don't know, 10 months ago, maybe, when it happened last summer, I think, something like that. And yeah, the deal, I don't know what has been finalized or what hasn't, but I'm putting this square at the feet of Keir Starmer, and he's blowing smoke up Zelensky's ass to say, we'll protect you. You don't need the Americans. We'll protect you. And Zelensky's eating it up. Not smart. Not smart.
Okay, so hold on. I'm taking care of a little business here. Okay, so our main topic here. All right, so I have a personal connection.
Are we skipping Geert Wilders?
Oh no, I'm sorry. I don't want to skip the country that has multiple names. Is it Holland? Are they Dutch? Is it the Netherlands? Anyway, someone's going to have to explain that all to me, or I'll just grok it someday. Anyway, the Dutch government collapsed yesterday after far-right populist leader Geert Wilders withdrew his Party for Freedom from a four-party coalition that put an end to the administration less than a year after it was put together. Wilders blamed the new split on the refusal of his partners to support new immigration proposals that would have included suspension of all asylum applications and a tighter border. Prime Minister Dick Schoof, independent, said he would submit his resignation to the king while continuing in the caretaker role. Coalition leaders said they were not really against Wilders' plans completely, but wanted to debate them in the House of Representatives, which would have delayed action and offered no guarantee of passage, of course. Although the coalition does hold an 88 out of 150 majority, pretty comfortable. The collapse of the Dutch government leaves the Netherlands under a caretaker government weeks before a NATO summit, June 24th and 25th, where key defense decisions are expected. The remaining coalition parties could attempt to continue in a different form, but that's probably not going to work out. New elections are expected this fall.
I think I don't actually know the details behind closed doors of why he decided to abruptly say, fuck this, I'm out. But that's effectively what happened. Is Geert won, or his party last year won, I wouldn't say it's a resounding win, but they surprised everybody with the showing of support that they got. Because, the Dutch are typically very chill, like kind of very left-leaning, but Wilders' party is part of like this growing right-wing populism that has been simmering for years in Europe. So he says he's going to run for prime minister instead. And I think he stands a good chance of winning, because right now we're in, like it or not, we are in Trump's world. We are living in populist world, like it or not, conservative populist world. And I think people, after more than a decade of left-leaning, American-style DEI, ESG, all of this stuff that is, like seeing Greta Thunberg all over the world, like people just got sick of it. They've had too much, and I think they're revolting. I don't mean you're ugly, but they're revolting. And they're saying enough of this. So they are electing people like this guy and other people, other right-wingers with crazy hair, because they always have crazy hair, like Javier Milei, Donald Trump. They all with crazy hair, right-wingers. And I think it's just a rejection of American-style liberalism and culture wars in America that is kind of spread all around the world. And I say this while we're in June, which is Pride Month, right? There's a big rejection of this American-style cultural liberalism, and the politics are reflective of that. And I think he's one of them. He's a big one. And we're going to see a big shift in the EU, I think, in the next couple of years.
No, I think no question. Yeah, you're totally right. All right. Shall we do Tom Girardi?
Okay, we'll do Tom Girardi. I think for a lot of people, they're not familiar with this case, and I wasn't either. But local news back home in LA, short introduction to this story that Ted knows all the dirt on.
True.
So let us roll this local news from LA. I know it sounds on the surface, it's going to sound like celebrity LA garbage trash. But it's really kind of fucked up. Once I learned about what this case was, Ted, or why this guy was in trouble, it's pretty fucked up. So
it's very fucked up. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So here we go. KTLA Channel 5 local news back home.
Yeah, Cher, as you know, Thomas Girardi was a respected member of the legal community. With his wife, starred on a reality TV show. But tonight, he's in an Orange County rehabilitation center, apparently suffering from Alzheimer's, and is expected to be taken into federal custody. Fraud on a massive scale. That's how federal investigators today described the indictments against attorney Tom Girardi.
Girardi chose to steal from his clients and spend their money on his own personal expenses.
The Department of Justice says the 83-year-old used the stolen money, tens of millions of dollars, to pay for himself and to support his much younger wife, Erika Jayne, of the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills.
But our investigation has revealed that, in fact, Mr. Girardi was robbing and stealing from those people who he claimed to be championing.
The once revered attorney now is facing 5 counts of wire fraud with a maximum sentence of 20 years in federal prison.
He lied to me, for sure, yeah. He's a liar, he's a fraudster.
Joseph Ragumez was seriously burned in the 2010 San Bruno pipeline explosion.
3rd-degree burns on most of my body, nerve damage. I was on dialysis. I blew out my knees. I've had over 30 surgeries.
Investigators now say his attorney, Gerardi, won a $53 million settlement, but lied to Ragumez.
And lied to that client about the amount of the settlement, saying it was actually for $7.25 million, which was false. And for years, Mr. Girardi allegedly dragged out giving his client the money that rightfully belonged to him.
Ragumez has suffered for years with medical bills in the millions of dollars. Today's announcement, he says, will not heal his lingering injuries, but he hopes it will bring comfort to Girardi's victims.
I want to see him behind bars, want to get everything I'm owed. At the end of the day, I'll be all right. But I'm just happy there's some justice.
All right, Ted. So that's the setup to this case. This was published like 3 years ago by KTLA. So that's the background to this case. What more do you know, Ted?
Oh, I know everything. All right. So Tom Girardi. All right. So people who watched Erin Brockovich, the movie, great movie, they may recall that basically it concerns a woman who ended up becoming an attorney, and she basically led a giant claim against the big power utility for pollution down there in Southern California. If you remember the movie, she joins a small law firm, but at a certain point, the case gets, because they're suing this giant utility, becomes so big that they have to bring in a big law firm with the ability to handle it. For example, they got a document dump of thousands and thousands of documents under discovery. They just couldn't read them all. So they have to bring in a giant firm with the resources to handle a case against a formidable adversary like that. Tom Girardi is the big firm. And he, with Erin, won this giant case. That's one of the ways that he's famous. And, he is the kind of guy, he was very flashy. He, for example, when he would win a giant case, a tort case against a polluting utility, he would then, take the jury out on a yacht for a cruise across the Pacific to Tahiti and stuff like that. He married Erika Jayne of the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills.
33 years his junior, we should point out. But Ted, before people start judging, that was just her on the screen, right? Like, well,
apparently she's a nice woman.
They were married 21 years. She was like in her mid 20s when they met. They were married for over 20 years. So
yeah. No, I mean, look, we don't know what goes on. I don't know, the nature of their relationship. And this is not about them, but it's just to say that if you say they had the kind of estate that has to be seen from a helicopter, that just goes on and on and on and on.
But I thought she's implicated now. People were trying
she is implicated.
Class action suit them.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't know. I think I'm on the fence about whether she's guilty or not. She may or may not have known about what Tom was up to. I don't know. But here's what I do know. So in 2015, I was the staff cartoonist at the Los Angeles Times. And unbeknownst to me, the LA Times the year before had been purchased by the LAPD pension fund. Mm-hmm. This is legal in the United States. Nobody knows this. Like, there's no prohibition against a giant media conglomerate being purchased by a government agency. So
that's crazy.
As soon as that happened, one of the first things that the LAPD did was they also owned the San Diego Union Tribune. The LAPD basically tried to start purging journalists, opinion writers, and so on, who were critical of the LAPD. As a cartoonist, of course, I did the occasional cartoon about the corrupt police chief, Charlie Beck, and also the corrupt, the very violent LAPD, notoriously violent LAPD, one of the most violent police forces in the country. They invented the idea of the SWAT team. Anyway, I mean, you're not going to be a political cartoonist at a major city newspaper without doing cartoons making fun of the cops. You're just not. So anyway, if they'd come to me and said, hey, Ted, lay off the cops, I'm not a hero. I liked my job. I would have complied, but they never asked, because this happened at such a high level that my editors, who were not at such a high level, had no idea about any of these machinations behind the scenes. They never told me. They would have, but they didn't. So anyway, long story short, they fire me as a favor to the LAPD. This is all documented. I'm not going to get into how I know all this, but suffice it to say,
it was part of your lawsuit.
It all came out in court that the police chief, Charlie Beck, walked across the street to LA Times headquarters in their Art Deco building in downtown LA, and said to Austin Beutner, who was then a former mayoral candidate in LA, billionaire, who had become the publisher of the LA Times, hired for the LAPD. He walked over to Beutner's office and said, fire Ted Rall and smear him in your paper. This is all public record. You could all look it up. They admitted that the facts are not in dispute here. So I, of course, got involved in this legal battle to defend my reputation. I sued the LA Times for defamation, retaliation, wrongful termination, etc. My first attorney was Tom Girardi. I was very excited to get him. He's a very famous attorney. Right. He represented John Edwards, the former vice presidential candidate, a disgraced senator from North Carolina, former lawyer. So when you walked into his office, he had a former bank building all to himself. His firm was Gerardi Keese. It was a beautiful old 1930s bank building. Inside was a museum of Central Asian antiquities, something that, as a person who goes to Central Asia a lot and written books about it, I couldn't get over it. I mean, there was all sorts of crazy stuff. I bet some of it kind of the provenance is maybe not completely kosher. But anyway, amazing shit. And the office was stunning. And, and you go back into his office, into his lair, in his man cave, he had this office that was a temple, and he had pictures of himself with Bill Clinton, with with Hillary. He was a big Democratic Party donor, donor and affiliate, and he was spectacularly wealthy. Long story short, he listens to the details of the case, loves the case. He's like, "This is absolutely disgusting. We're gonna take him to the cleaners. I'm gonna find out everything that happened." Now, under California law, the first thing you have to do when you sue a newspaper is you have 20 days from the time of publication to the time that you have to file a notice that tells the newspaper that you're going to sue them for defamation. That gives them a chance to retract, right? So they have.
Oh, okay.
So like you're telling them, hey, I'm going to sue you, but you can retract. I mean, you can still sue them even if they retract, but you're giving them an opportunity to mitigate the harm, right?
Sure.
It's kind of a stupid law, and I always think I hate the law because, like, you know, what if someone libels you and you're in the Peace Corps in the middle of like Burma, and then you come home like 6 months later and then you find out this happened? Well, you're fucked in California. So anyway, I had 20 days. A very famous Gloria Allred's daughter, Lisa Bloom, called me. She was following the case. She's like, Ted, you got to take care of that notice thing right away. So I was like, thank you, Lisa Bloom. I'll tell Tom. Tom goes, I'm on it. I'll notice the Times. It's the first thing I need to do in the case. Well, all he has to do is just send a letter, right? And just send a runner over to the LA Times. Day after day goes by. What's going on, Tom? Oh, yeah, okay, I'll take care of it. What's going on? Nothing. And then finally, at like day 19, I'm like, Tom, it's tomorrow. You have to send the letter today. So he sends this very lamely worded, like almost like if Joe Biden wrote it. And to this day, I don't know if it's because this was intentional or if he was the early signs of Alzheimer's. But he sends this crappy letter over to the LA Times. But it serves as the notice, right? I mean, you know, any kind of placeholder will work. Anyway, I come to discover, and he didn't, so I knew he had connections within the LAPD because he called into the LAPD to find out about like how they were handling me and all this. And I knew that. Everyone in LA is intimately interconnected. It's a big city that's run like a small Mississippi town. And everybody knows each other.
That's true.
And so he, this all happens, and I come to learn that eventually that he slow walked my case on purpose. I ultimately had to fire him because we were going to keep missing deadlines, and I got a new attorney. But the point is, why? And later, years later, I found out that he was best friends with Charlie Beck, the chief of the LAPD, you know, the guy who I'm trying to sue, right? So conflict of interest much? Not just best friends, like they literally eat together twice a week in public at the same restaurant. But wait, there's more. So it turns out also that Tom Girardi is having an affair. He's sleeping with, wait for it, one of the judges in my case.
That was him? I remember you.
Him. That's
wait
him.
a minute. So this is.
And the judge, by the way, is just sort of like, and the judge is basically, this went on from 2015 to 2020.
So, I mean, we're talking
of this
10 years ago.
This is the entire period that he's just got sentenced to 7 years for, was from 2010 to 2020. So this happened to you in let me go back here. Timeline. This was 2015. Summer of 2015.
So 10 years ago.
Exactly 5 years ago.
He was 2015.
Sorry, 10 years ago. Yeah.
10 years. I was like, wait a minute, I'm bad at math, but that bad. Okay.
No, you're
so
not bad.
2015, this man, Tom Girardi, was still married to his much younger wife, but sleeping with a judge?
An appellate judge. A key judge.
An appellate judge.
A judge in my case. And so the corruption was like, it was like one thing after another, right? So, I mean, I could just tell.
Really
and I can tell.
People don't know this about LA.
I mean,
it's just
some highlights, right?
I know some circles.
My first judge in the case. I'm very excited. She's like an AOC type person, left-wing Latina from East LA, big lefty. I'm like, this lady's going to be on my side. And sure enough, we go to court, and she's totally reaming the LA Times. And like the classic line is like, oh, wait, so are you still alleging that in oral arguments, are you still alleging that Mr. Rall lied in your newspaper? No, we admit that Mr. Rall told the truth. Okay, so tell me this, why do I see Mr. Rall in my courtroom, but not in my newspaper? And so they're like, well, Mr. Rall is trying to censor the LA Times and deprive the poor, sad little LA Times of their First Amendment rights to publish. It's like, no, he's not. He's just asking the court to rule that he's been defamed, and maybe he'll get money. Try again. Anyway, the point is, I'm like, I'm going to win, right? 2 months later, she takes early retirement, and suddenly, poof, that judge has a beautiful mansion that she just moved into.
Get out.
It's just one thing.
The Latina judge.
One thing after another like that. Okay. The appellate judge that Gerardi was fucking, who by the way got caught. This is all like public record now. She's like a humiliated former judge. Okay. So that judge, appellate judge, and, the appellate law is supposed to be like at a higher level, right? Anyway, this appellate judge, we're sitting there in her courtroom, and she's like, oh, I don't see any, what case law is there to back up Rall's position? And my lawyer's like, blah, blah versus blah, 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 blah versus blah, blah.
Sure.
And then she's like, well, I don't see anything. And he's like, I have them right here, Your Honor, if you'd like to see them. She goes, I'm not interested. Well, I know why she wasn't interested, because she was cock-gobbling Gerardi. Okay.
Oh, yuck. Okay.
So,
but now let's fast forward.
And so it was zillions of things like that. I wrote an entire book about it that I'm going to publish. So anyway, this shit goes all the way up to the governor's mansion, ultimately.
Okay. Why does it go up to Gavin Newsom? How does it rise to Sacramento?
Ultimately, my case burbles up to, so what happens is it works its way up through the court system. And I end up before the California State Supreme Court. If you sue in Los Angeles, the lowest court is called LA Superior Court. That's called the trial court.
That's where we all go.
Then you go to the Court of Appeals. There are 16 divisions of the Court of Appeals. 15 are liberal, one's conservative and right wing. Guess which one I magically got assigned to? And then then I go to the California Supreme Court. California Supreme Court's they're based in, even though the capital's in Sacramento, they're based in San Francisco. I guess they're like, fuck Sacramento, it's an ugly city. So they're in San Francisco, close to the governor, not far from like City Hall and all that stuff. Okay. And so Civic Center, right? They call it there. Anyway, the court rules, I believe it was a 5-judge panel, unanimously in my favor. The money quote, Mr. Rall appears to be the victim of one of the most egregious examples of political corruption in the history of the state of California. That's a big claim, okay, in considering the history of the state of California.
And this guy's was at the center of it. It's
all intertwined. So then, then COVID breaks out. When COVID breaks out, by this point, the LAPD has sold the LA Times. And now they have a new owner, Dr. Pat Soon-Shiong.
Dr. Pat. Yeah,
Dr. Pat, who is also a scoundrel of epic proportions, who makes Donald Trump look like a Boy Scout. Okay. I mean, this guy, Dr. Pat, literally became wealthy by killing breast cancer patients.
Oh, you
by the thousands. He basically did catch and kill as a big pharma bro. And he basically would buy a company that was making a cheap, effective cancer drug, develop his own expensive, shitty cancer drug that was less effective, then forget to file the FDA renewal applications so that the good, cheap drug ends up no longer approved or available. So breast cancer patients have no choice but to go to Dr. Pat's shitty drug. And a number of them died as a result. There are many lawsuits pending against Dr. Pat over this shit.
Was in tow.
But guess who Dr. Pat...
He was in tow with Donald Trump recently in Saudi Arabia.
He only bought the LA Times. He doesn't care about journalism. He bought the LA Times because 95% of all journalism comes from print newspapers. So if you are doing dirty deeds in Southern California and you don't want any investigative reporters to dig into your shit, you buy the big paper, right? So he owns the San Diego Union Trib as well as the LA Times.
Oh,
so,
he owns both? I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was. I'm surprised he never made a play for the OC Register. But anyway, he's a cock. Okay, so Dr. Pat goes to Gavin Newsom and says, I tell you what, I own some of the closed hospitals in the LA area that I'm going to reopen to take care of California COVID patients. Let's hold a joint press conference and talk about like how you and I worked together to increase capacity at the peak of COVID. This is April 2020. This is the beginning of, remember, we're all in lockdown. The country's closed.
We all don't, nobody knows what the hell's going on.
Yeah,
in April
all hell has broken loose. A million Americans are about to die, right? So, by this point, there's already like mass graves in New York City, like at Hart Island. So anyway, this makes a big splash. Gavin Newsom, the next day, walks over to the California Supreme Court, tells them, please drop all lawsuits that involve Dr. Pat. Mine, 2 others at the LA Times, bunch of others against his pharma company. Poof. All of which he was going to lose, by the way.
So what, I mean, if Dr. Pat bought the LA Times while it was in trouble already, mired in lawsuits.
He overpaid for it, though.
But does that mean the new ownership inherits the lawsuit?
Oh, yes, absolutely. That's right. Yeah, I mean, just think about it. If you name that, let's say someone, the lady who got hot coffee spilled on her at McDonald's.
Yeah.
If McDonald's gets sold to Nestle, they still owe that lady for the coffee suit, right? When you buy a company, you inherit all of the assets and liabilities, and a pending lawsuit is a liability.
Right, because your lawsuit was to the LA Times and not the owner, the pension fund, the police pension.
So Gavin, who looks good, but maybe there's not a lot going on in his brain. He does this for Dr. Pat. Dr. Pat Welch's never reopened any of the hospitals. Just fucked him. Also promised to keep the jobs in LA. Fucked him. Moved out to El Segundo.
And I was going to say, they shut down, because I used to live in downtown LA, walking distance to City Hall, walking distance to LA Times building. I used to cruise past the building and always admire this beautiful old, Art Deco Gothic, it's a Deco building, right? It was just carvings on the exterior, beautiful old building. And then one day, I live here, and one day I heard they're moving, and I went, oh, it's been there for like 120 years. Like that's where the LA Times has always been. So for me, it was kind of a sad, journalism, sad. But then I didn't know all of these dirty things about Dr. Pat, but the more I hear about it, wow. And tied in, I'm sure, to this man, a dirty attorney. But here's my question to you, Ted, before we wrap. If this guy, by the time the court case began against, Tom Girardi, he was already separated from his much younger wife. They were going through a messy divorce. He was already living.
She filed for divorce in 2020.
Okay. So, at this point, though, now we're 23. So 2023. Okay. So before the lawsuit began about his corruption, he was already living when they indicted him. He was already living in a senior facility for Alzheimer's patients. So why would he be able to stand trial if, for the same reason, if we use Robert Hur, if we use the same logic that Robert Hur used regarding President Biden, why was this case able to continue on and Biden wasn't? And we're talking at the highest level with a U.S. attorney, with Robert Hur, but Tom Girardi can be seen as fit to stand trial, even though you literally arrested him coming out of a senior mental health Alzheimer's living facility.
Okay, so That's a great question, Manila. And I would like to answer that question. I think it's, so we're speculating here. However, I'm pretty sure I'm right. Tom Girardi may or may not be senile. Maybe he's faking it like Vinny the Chin Gigante, the mobster in New York who, famously used to avoid prosecution by running around in the streets of Greenwich Village, babbling and drooling and pretending to be senile. Maybe Tom Girardi is faking it. I doubt it. Okay. It's a very credible, convincing.
He's 84 years old.
He's 86. Okay. He's old as shit.
He's older than Biden.
Yeah, he's old. He's 4 years older than Biden, right? He's as old as Biden.
There he is. Look, that's him now.
If he'd been reelected. Yeah, he's old. I mean, he may well be. I believe that he's mentally impaired. And obviously, I'm no Tom Girardi fan from what you've heard, right? He betrayed me. He fucked me. I lost partly because of him. So, I'm not a fan.
Set you up for failure.
That all said, I don't think this is right. I don't think that he should be put on trial. I think it's a waste of taxpayer money.
They found him guilty.
They ordered him to make restitution. How? He's 86 years old, senile, and he's going to be in prison. He can't make restitution. So this is just a waste of the prosecution that should be going after real crimes or crimes that they can actually do something about. So I think it's stupid. You want to know why they're doing this to him, though? I'll tell you why. Because Tom Girardi is a linchpin to the corruption of possible future LA Mayor, California Governor Austin Beutner. He's a linchpin to possible future President Gavin Newsom. He's a linchpin to the corruption of the California State Supreme Court and at least 2 divisions of the LA Appellate Division. He's a linchpin to corruption within the LAPD, and linchpin to corruption under 2 ownerships of the Los Angeles Times and the San Diego Union Tribune. He's an octopus. He had his tentacles in everything. He's Jeffrey Epstein of Southern California. His little black book is documents where all the bodies are buried. His legal files, his archives connect everyone and everything in the cesspool that is Southern California.
Of SoCal. So he's all roads lead to Tom Girardi.
They've got to bury him. They've got to fuck him and put him away and throw away the key. There's and which is what they did. 7 years to an 86-year-old man. He's not coming out.
Life.
Yeah, I mean, even if he's well behaved and he's paroled after 5, he's not going to make it. So, I mean, as bad a man as Tom Girardi is, who was a good man, who basically got completely tempted by greed and avarice and the lust of this younger wife and trying to impress her and all this, it's a morality tale for sure. But as bad as he is, he's an angel compared to the people who are out to get him now, who are even worse. Newsom, Beutner, Beck,
for sure.
All these people who are complete scum. So, it's quite the story, right? And, I'm just giving, that honestly is just the bullet pointed executive summary edition of it. It's worse than that. But, I just it's talking about Biden's senility. There's a lot of aspects to it.
Yeah, you hear about these dirty lawyers, and I think when you add in the whole shiny, pretty people in California, right, and his TV show wife, and you add in all this stuff, it's just I was beginning to wonder, is this even valid? Given you remove all the other parts. The shiny, pretty wife, all this stuff. You remove that part. The bottom line is he's a mid-80s something senile old man. It doesn't appear like he was faking it. Was it? Sure, is he a scoundrel? I mean, look at him. This is him now. This is him present day. You can see there's an obvious decline in his overall personal condition.
He was like a bull.
Should he?
I mean, he was a very impressive man. When I met him,
he looked like it just a few years ago from these images.
I mean, he was a scam artist, and we didn't even get into the details of what he's been convicted for. He won all these giant claims by
look at the difference.
Claims, and he basically, that's what he looked like when I knew him, and
this is what he looks like now.
And he sued. I mean, you could say, well, this is an old man who's 70 years. It's the difference between 76 and 86, but I don't know. But I mean, he could walk and stuff. It's still kind of like, wow. But he's definitely suffering from Alzheimer's. I think there's no question.
He apparently got rebuked by the judge because he had an outburst in court the other day, and he shouted "fuck you" to the prosecutor.
That's my Tom Girardi. And I mean, honestly, it's like he had class. He was more than a contender. He ruled the world. And
wow.
And he was, and it's like, but the shit that he pulled to like raise money, basically, like he stole money from his clients. Like he would tell someone that won $25 million, oh, you only won $7 million.
I mean, we just saw from the guy that had the burns from the San Bruno explosion.
His girlfriend died in that explosion, by the way.
Oh,
yeah.
The guy actually won over $50 million, and Tom told him, "You won $7 million."
Yep. Yeah, that was his standard MO. Or he'd be like, "Oh, you can't receive your settlement unless you settle this tax problem you've got in such and such county." What? I never lived in that county.
Awful.
So just bullshitting him. He was because basically people don't know this, but Manila, if you sue, like I don't know, you let's say you sue the some company where you
Dominion Energy. I don't know.
Okay, Dominion Energy, and you win, and they give you. And I'm your lawyer. The check comes to me.
Yes.
I get your check. And then I take out my piece, my 40%, right. My 30%, and then I send you the rest.
You act as escrow.
That's literary agents the same way. When I sell a book, the check goes to my agent. Oh. My agent, then takes out. But she's transparent. She makes a copy of the check that she received from the publisher. So I know.
Good thinking.
Well,
good thinking.
Well, so... I mean, she's honest. So unlike Tom could have played it straight. He was still incredibly rich. He didn't have to do any of this.
Wow.
He just wanted even more.
This just, what a sad, so sad for so many, especially his victims. I get it. And just what a sad state for a person to be in, to be
the judge should be ashamed of himself, of himself for saying, oh, he's self-aware. He can stand trial. Like, okay, judge, what for? But I know this was a corrupt judge. They're all corrupt in LA.
I know.
I don't think there are any honest ones. Everybody's getting, rolls of cash in the bathroom.
I can attest to that, Ted. Like I know some circles of people, that big developers around town, right? And this is outside of me having worked in real estate. This is just me being friendly Manila, making friends with all sorts of weird random people. And I'll just say I've been in, let's just say at dinners or at social events where I'm like, oh, you are friends with you that you shouldn't be friends with. And there was a lot of those moments where I went, oh my God, Los Angeles County is 12 million people. Right. And it seems that all the power players all knew each other. I've been at private.
It's actually kind of unbelievable. They all know each other. They all know scratch each other's back. They all fuck each other. Literally.
Yes. And I've been at, these fundraiser events and Gavin Newsom, where I met Gavin Newsom, and I, told you the sleaze story about him sleazing up my arm. And like doing the double, shake the hand, but the other arm goes up. His other hand, left hand goes up my arm, and does that caressing, like where I was like, whoa, why are you caressing my arm? Like, this is creepy.
I bet, and that's another thing, Gavin. I know you watch the TMI show every morning, which, is one of your better personality traits. But listen to Manila, because, the thing is, you've done this to a lot of other ladies, a lot, and it's all going to come out. Don't run for president. Don't.
Yes, because I'm sure there are women that have way worse stories than mine. And
I'm sure.
Yes. So mine was just in the public eye, and we chit-chatted.
Know your level, Gavin. You got to be governor of the biggest state in the country. That's good. Leave it.
The dirt will come out. My dirt was very, very minimal. Just, I can only say at a surface level, it felt sleazy. And the environment I was around and all the people, the donors that were there, I probably have accidentally hobnobbed with Tom Girardi, for all I know.
Oh,
and
it's possible.
Although you
probably remember him. I mean, he was he was not a tall man, but he filled up the room.
An old rich white guy in LA.
Yeah, but he was. I mean, you saw those. I mean, you saw that. He's an impressive presence. He was like a mob boss.
I'm not good with remembering just.
I remember faces forever. Names are terrible.
He looks really familiar to me, but only because he actually looks like somebody I do know. So I don't know. There's a chance, like I said.
But it's hard to explain. I mean, I hardly ever lived there for any length of time. I went back and forth to New York. This whole case educated me. I had no idea. I mean, this is all shit that never would have gone down in a real city like Chicago or New York. It's like it's Wild West. I mean, there's like no attempt. There's no institutional norms. There's no civility. It's like we just do whatever the fuck we want. We don't care about the law. We don't care about common decency. Like, they're crazy out there. And if you find yourself in the clutches of the the Los Angeles legal system, God help you.
Yeah, I will vouch for that. And with that, I guess this comes that this sentencing of 7 years brings us to the end of the show, because I have a lot of questions and qualms about how all of this came about. No denying that he was a dirty bastard, but like you said, they're throwing one of these political elites in LA.
Let me just say, like stealing from his clients
to save themselves.
It's very severe. The clip you showed is horrible. That said, considering the sum total of all the corruption that Gerardi was intimately involved in, those things are minor. It's the equivalent of nailing Al Capone for tax evasion. It's just not that big a deal. They got him on stuff.
They got something.
They got him on something. It didn't really matter. They could have sent him to prison for thousands of years if they'd really gone after him. The problem is he'd be sharing a cell with Beutner and Dr. Pat and Governor Newsom, right? I mean,
well, I mean,
hi, Gavin. Fuck you, Gavin.
Such is life in LA, Ted. And that's, I went from one skeevy town to another. Here I am in DC, right? So I don't know any different. This is born in one town, adulting in another, and they're both the same type. They dress different. That's the only difference for me. It's both just as skeevy and grimy and gross. And there are Tom Girardis all over DC on K Street. So,
sure.
So, I'm just par for the course, but interesting case to know about that this.
By the way, if Tom Girardi had played it straight, we would have gotten $25 to $50 million from the LA Times, 40% of which would have been his. You know what I'm saying? Just play it straight and you'll be rich.
Yeah, but he was thinking long term that he'd set up hookups and friends and political favors, and
that's the direction that his career went in. But he didn't have to, is my point. He could have been an outsider, crusading lefty lawyer, made millions, billions, would have been great.
But that's not how life works, Ted.
And then you disgrace yourself and you spend your final years. I mean, it's not going to be that bad. He's going to be in federal prison, which is the least bad of all prisons.
Camp Cupcake. I don't know.
He might be. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Okay. I think honestly, he's probably going to end up in a geriatric ward in federal prison, right? They have special facilities for the oldsters.
Oh, I'm sure. Like, he cannot be in general population anywhere. I mean, no. So, all right, that is going to do it for us. What a weird case and sort of small world.
And it's very weird, like as a kid from Kettering, Ohio, to end up all entangled in this shit. was very weird, very surreal. I just came to draw cartoons. I wasn't looking for trouble.
I just want to draw stuff.
Yeah. Hello.
All right. That'll do it for this Wednesday, June the 4th. We will be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern time. Thank you guys for joining. Make sure you guys hit that like button before we go. Appreciate you being here. See you tomorrow morning, guys. Have a good hump day. Adios, amigos. Bye.
Bye, Manila.
Bye.